Boxing King Media in association with BoxRaw. Delighted to be here at the Matchroom headquarters with the one and only Frank Smith. Frank, firstly, good to see you. How are we?
I'm good, mate. I'm enjoying a bit of a restful week away from travelling and jumping on planes every 2 minutes. Got nice 2 or 3 weekends with no shows, so we can sit back, plan, and look at what's next.
I was going to say, because obviously when I messaged you earlier in the week, you were like, yeah, you're in the UK for the whole week. But literally, when you gave me your schedule, you were almost practically in a different place every single day this week. So it is still non-stop when you're here in the UK.
Yeah. I spend a bit of time in London, come to the office a few days a week. I've never, I've been looking. I've done 135 days out of the country so far this year. So it's been a manic start to the year. We've got a big end to the year that we're planning through now. But yeah, all over the place, but enjoy it. I always say it's not a proper job.
Let's start off with, obviously, I know you've been flying around everywhere. One of the talking points that yourself and Eddie have said that you're going to announce this huge schedule of boxing up until probably December. And you're going to use kind of the next kind of 2 weeks before the AJ fight to hopefully get that announced. So where are we with that schedule? And can you give us an update in terms of any shows that are not announced that you possibly may announce?
Yeah, look, there's been a lot of talk about a number of different shows that are coming up. We've got the next 2 weeks to really get that announcement out there. So we're going to planning it with DAZN currently to get a load of shows out there and then do a big sort of launch around the AJ Fight Week as well of all the major moments and major events. Look, there's a lot of talk about the key moments that we're working on. You've obviously got sort of starting at the end of the year, but you've obviously got Sonny Edwards against Jesse Rodriguez, a huge fight. That will announce the date and venue for that in the next sort of 7 to 14 days. You've got Katie Taylor's rematch against Chantel Cameron. That's something that's very close to being finalised. You've got Lee Wood against Josh Warrington, very close to being done as well. Joe Cordina's world title defence. We're working very hard on Devon Haney against Regis Prograis. So many big fights and big undercards to end the year with. So I think over the next, over the next 2 weeks, you'll see those announcements drip out. And then with a big event around the AJ Fight Week just to show what a massive end to the year it is.
I know you obviously can't go into a lot of detail, but in terms of the Lee Wood Warrington, disappointing that you couldn't get the City ground, and it looks like it's going to go Sheffield now because I believe Manchester's not available either.
Yeah, look, we worked very hard to try and get the City ground, and to be fair to the club as well, they wanted to do it. They're laying a pitch for the first time in 25 years. And look, you have to understand football is the main focus of their business. They're not going to do anything that could cause them any issues on the football pitch. I understand that. But we've had positive discussions around a potential fight next year as well. Look, it's a massive fight, this fight. Sheffield in between, bang in the middle of the two. Manchester Arena, as you say, wasn't available, and we're going to have over 13,000. I think it holds just over 13,000 in there. So we'll have a packed out house in there for that show. But yeah, look, shame, a stadium show would always be brilliant, but we've got some good discussions going on about potential of that next year.
In terms of this week, we've had an announcement of a huge show for Sky and Boxer. Liam Smith, Chris Eubank Jr., the rematch is on. When did you realise that there was no chance of making Conor Benn Chris Eubank Jr., or Chris Eubank Jr. wasn't going to be available for Conor Benn pending his hearing and outcome with the board?
Look, I think it's quite clear for everyone to see that the obvious favourite fight for everyone was the Conor Benn fight. It's a massive fight, Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, for all the parties involved. Hence why it took so long to schedule the fight that's just been announced. I've been in discussion. I speak to Calla and Nissa Sowland literally every day of my life. I've known them since I was 18 years old. So I've been speaking to them about the plans and knew what the plan was and when it was going to be announced. But everyone wanted to make the Conor Benn fight. Hence why we said, if this fight can be made, it will be made. Unfortunately, there's a delay in terms of getting the answers around Conor Benn. It is coming, but they can't wait forever, understandably, for Chris Eubank's career and Liam Smith and the date they had. So, they had to make a move. It's 5 weeks away from now. They had to make a decision, which they did. But, like I say, everyone wanted to make the Eubank-Benn fight and would have done had we have had the answers in time before they were pressed to make this decision.
Calla's done an interview, I believe, of the last 24 hours where he's spoken about that. basically, I'm paraphrasing here, that the Conor Benn fight wasn't something we were looking at. We're not talking to someone who doesn't have a license, and it was all about the Liam Smith rematch, which almost is totally different to what you just said just now.
Well, I didn't watch his interview, but look, I speak to Callis Howland every day of the week. Like I said, everyone, if that fight was possible, we all knew what the deal was, what the plan would be, if it was possible. Like I say, Conor Benn, we didn't get the answers back in time. You know, we may get the answers back tomorrow, the next day, and then we can make a plan. But, you know, it's quite simple to get a deal done between us because we worked together for so long. You know, that's the easiest way to explain it. And they would have rescheduled that fight a lot quicker had the Conor Benn discussions or potential of that fight not been around, wouldn't they? You know, hence why it took so long for it to be announced. You know, it's 5 weeks away, so there's obviously a reason behind that. But yeah, look, there's definitely potential for that fight in the future. You know, it's going to be an interesting rematch. I'm not taking a view on it. Family staying out of it, just like the Conor Benn Chris Eubank fight as well. If we can make that happen, I hope one day we can make the Benn Eubank fight, because it's a massive fight to be made. You know, I've spent a lot of time trying to make it. I've spent nearly a year of my life. You know, from when we first made it the first time round. But I'm very confident we'll get something over the line in the future.
Eddie said that he was more or less, he assumed that the decision about Conor Benn's future was made by the board, UCAD, etc. An announcement was pending, but he didn't know what that announcement or that result would be. Rumours are flying around at the moment. As you know, social media is full of rumours that the board are probably going to ban him. Have you, Eddie, anyone else heard anything? When can we expect to hear something? And have those rumours almost implied to Cal and his team that, listen, we just have to move forward with the Liam Smith fight?
I don't believe that was the reason. You know, this conversation has been going on a long time. You know, all these rumours, there's nothing out there yet. So they are literally just rumours. There's so much talking about this whole situation. I think we have to let it play out and let the people who know what they're doing make a decision. You know, it's not for me, you, someone on Twitter to decide what should happen with Conor Benn's career. It's for the specialists and people who actually understand the detail around it all. So that's what's going on in the background. In terms of did rumours affect the decision? No, not at all. Just time frames affected the decision. People had to make moves, and fair enough. You know, it's boxers' careers, and they need to maximise, you know, their opportunities. So it wasn't led at all by rumours. Because if things were led by rumours, nothing would ever get done in this sport. But you know, hopefully we have some news soon, and there's none of the rumours are true. Like Eddie said, a decision's there, and it's with the party, you know, to come out and outline the actions from there. But and it's also, you know, an arbitrary board that is not necessarily the British Boxing Board control. It's a UCAD situation. As the BBFC have said, it's down to you. Any doping violations or charges are down to UCAD to decide upon. So that's with them. It's not for the board to decide upon, as the board have said.
Everyone says that we want to see a spiteful Anthony Joshua. We want to see the old Anthony Joshua that goes in, knocks his opponent out, throws his hands, etc. He's been more vocal than ever more recently, and maybe that's a good sign. But something that probably upset a lot of people were his comments about Ron McCracken. Obviously, he said stuff about Carl Froch's nose. Carl's taking it on the chin. But we also know that Carl has also said comments about Anthony Joshua in the past as well, where Anthony has also stayed quiet at that particular time. But were you surprised with his comments about Ron McCracken?
I can't really speak on his behalf about, you know, that they had a great tenure together, you know, all the way through the Olympics and the pros as well, did some amazing things together. You know, I think some of the comments were very much aimed at Carl as well. Really, you know, Carl said a lot of things and questionable things where people maybe have gone, why would you say that? But I haven't really read enough about the comments that you said. All I can say is, from my behalf, look, they had a great run together, and people move on. And people move on to sort of, you know, to try and further themselves. And, you know, I think Anthony's in a great position now. He's working with Derek James. He had a real strong win against Jermaine Franklin in a sense of he went out there and won almost every round, and that's what the sport's about as well, is about improving yourself. And you know, I think he's in a good place. We all want to see knockouts, of course, That's the business we're in. I think you're going to be in. I personally think the Dillian fight's a different fight for both of them because there is something there between the two of them, and it is going to be. I think it will be a fight when it comes down to it, a real fight. And yeah, look, we all want to see knockouts, 100%. But at the same time, he's improving as a fighter and a boxer as well.
In terms of the relationship that you have with Skills Challenge, it's quite evident that the Wilder fight is going to happen, maybe not December, but certainly the next fight in early part of 2024. From your conversations with the Saudis, if Dillian Whyte was to win, does that make him a front runner, or are they not interested in Dillian Whyte and Wilder in Saudi? Because ultimately, it's not about money for them, or it's about the eyeballs, and they want to get the biggest attraction and biggest fighters to fight on their in their lands as possible.
Look, I believe the focus is very much Anthony Joshua against Deontay Wilder. I've said on multiple occasions, I believe Anthony Joshua at Deontay Wilder is commercially one of the biggest fights out there. I believe it's bigger than Usyk Fury. I think the only fight really that's maybe bigger in terms of boxing, heavyweight boxing, is AJ Fury. But I think AJ against Deontay Wilder is in the top 2 or 3 fights in boxing that can be made. It's been a fight that's been called out for a long, long time. There's history there. There's been a lot of back and forth, and how many years has this fight been asked for? Probably 5-6 years. So I think that's very much Skill Challenge folk. I don't work for Skill Challenge. We have a great relationship with them, but from my understanding and discussions, very much their focus is the Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder fight. But look, there's a lot of talk about Deontay Wilder fighting Andy Ruiz. If that happens, it's a tough fight. It's not a walkover fight, just like Anthony Joshua against Dillian Whyte's not a walkover fight. These are proper fights. So they got to focus completely on these, and then in the background we'll do our job, which is to lay out the best possible plans. So definitely the focus is to make that fight for the early part of next year or end of this year. But we've got to see. We've got to take it step by step.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Joseph Parker versus Anthony Joshua in Cardiff when Deontay Wilder came down. I was there for that particular fight, and Deontay was obviously there to kind of hype up this potential fight with Joshua. So could we see Deontay Wilder, now that the fight is more or less done, for Saudi here in London at the O2 to watch Dillian Whyte and Joshua fight?
It would be great if Deontay Wilder was there. I'm not sure there's any plans yet. There may have been some discussions, but I'm not sure if he's planning to come over. Look, as I say, he's looking to make his fight against Andy Ruiz, whether that's in August, September, October. August very unlikely, obviously, but September, October. He may not want to be travelling across to the UK, but it would be great to have him here. But as I say, Anthony can't take his eye off the focus of Dillian Whyte, because it's a real fight.
Frank Warren obviously also announced a fight for Tyson Fury against Francis Ngannou. I'm sure you knew about that before it was actually announced. He defined it as game change. Now, obviously, a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon and saying it's not game change, it's Tyson's going there for the money, etc. But when I reflect and kind of look at his comments, I think he was more meaning towards the relationship he now has with a different party from Saudi Arabia. So could you tell us, obviously, I know this isn't Skills Challenge, but the dynamics of this relationship that Frank has and then you guys have with Skills Challenge, are we seeing competition in Saudi itself?
I think, from my understanding, it's 2 sort of separate organisations. One is the General Sports Authority, and one is the General Entertainment Authority, the GEA. I believe that's what the name is, that deliver anything from WWE, not sporting events. I know this is a sporting, but it's an exhibition essentially. I don't know enough about all the detail of it. We have a very strong relationship with Skill Challenge. As I say, we've never done an event with the GEA. We've always worked with Skill Challenge and have a great relationship with Prince Khalid. They have huge appetite to keep delivering massive boxing shows in Saudi Arabia. We've been talking to them a lot about a number of different events, and I think it's 2 different types of events, isn't it? Like I say, one's an exhibition, not real boxing, and then you're looking at real, world championship boxing.
If you were offered the reported amount, I think it's $40 million or £40 million.
I'll be out there tomorrow. I'll fight Francis Ngannou now. It wouldn't last very long.
If you were offered that for any one of your fighters, including Anthony Joshua, is it difficult to walk away from?
look, Anthony Joshua didn't want the Francis Ngannou fight. Like we spoke about this, he said that's not what he's interested in. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't understand it. Of course, you completely understand it. Like, fair play to him. He's making a load of money. We're all in a dangerous business. Make as much money as possible. I respect that completely. Massive event, yes, but when my bigger thing is where Frank Warren says we tried to make every fight, couldn't. We didn't try and make every fight. We tried to make 2 fights or 3 fights. Like there's a lot of other WBC ranked fight. You know, if you're looking at WBC ranked fighters, there's another 12. There's 15 of them. You know, so in terms of for the sport of boxing, look, I think it's massive. Loads of people are going to tune in to watch Tyson Fury against Ngannou, 100%. But when you then say about, oh, we tried to make all these fights, well, that's rubbish. But that's where the WBC thing is. People work very hard to build their way up through the rankings. They deserve the opportunity to fight for the belts. And when he says the fights weren't there, no, the fights weren't there that are commercially big enough for Tyson and you all to make a load of money. But again, easier just to come out and say that. Say, we could have gone and fought Frank Smith, who's number 14 in the rankings, but we would have only made 400 grand and that doesn't really work for us, you know. So that's the bigger issue with it. Not taking the event. The event's huge. Yeah, I'm sure we all got approached to put one of our one of our fighters got approached to go and fight someone who's never boxed in their life before. You'd take it. I completely get it. But you have to change the approach of the way you react to the questioning.
John Fury, your good friend, John Fury, said the following.
Never met him, so.
I've said it before, he's a total, utter idiot. And the only thing wrong with him is jealousy because he's not put it together. He did say he's the only man that could make a fight happen in Saudi. How much egg has he got on his face today? Referring to Eddie Hearn.
I was thinking he said it about me, to be honest. They got a love-hate relationship, him and Eddie, haven't they? I don't think have they ever met? I don't know. Who knows? It's not a boxing fight, is it? As we say, so it's something different. But we are, we've delivered multiple events globally in boxing, and will continue to do so. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything about John Fury because he'll come and sort of just go like that, and I'll just end up splattered on the floor. So I'm staying out of his way. I love John Fury. I think he's a brilliant character, and he should. We need more of them.
Frank, just away from everything, over the last kind of 12 months, I've seen a lot of promoter bashing, whether it's Oscar De La Hoya, whether it's Lou DiBella, whether it's Eddie Hearn, whether it's Frank Warren. I saw an interview with Mauricio Suleiman yesterday or the day before where he was questioned quite staunchly about his system and his protocols on how he conducts business for his WBC champions. Jamal Charlo obviously hasn't fought for 2 years, and there's other champions that haven't fought. And is boxing in a very difficult position and state at the moment where it doesn't seem like promoters are aligned like they used to be many, many years ago. The sanctioning bodies are not putting fights together or ordering fights. Another one people would say is Wilder Ruiz. Why hasn't that gone to pursuance yet? Is the state of boxing in a difficult position at the moment?
I honestly I don't think it's in any worse or different position than it ever has been, in all honesty. I think we're seeing great fights being made, which is brilliant for the sport. I think we're seeing the best fights being made. Especially that there's some, we've got Spence and Crawford coming up in a few weeks. It's a massive fight for the sport. We're making some great fights here and in the US. Lots of talk about trying to make prograis Haney, for example. There are great fights being made, and that's the focus for us. Promoter bashing has always gone on, will continue between each other, will always go on. We all, at the end of the day, have agendas or have a job to do. But I don't see the sport being in any different position than it's been in. I've been working in boxing for 15 years, not at a high level for the early days of that, but still was in and around it. And I think it's very much in the same place. But the good thing is we're all focused on making big fights happen. And I think promoters will always work together. There's a lot of talk about us and Golden Boy, for example. I was with Eric Gomez from Golden Boy a few days ago. It doesn't mean every character's going to get on. That's not the way life works. But there are people within teams who have relationships, and can speak, And that's the same throughout the whole sport. Everyone within boxing, we all talk, but it just may not mean that Eddie Hearn has the best, he's going to go and sit down with Oscar De La Hoya for a beer. He might do, but doesn't have to be in order for the big fights to be made, because there are a number of people involved in the sport to do that job. So, you know, I don't think it's in a bad place. I think there's certain decisions are made that aren't always the right decisions by sanctioning bodies, but they got a hard job at the same time. You know, I think one thing that's got better is the number of belts, you know, and we want to keep improving that because it's confusing. I don't even understand it all the time, you know, and I work in it every day. But I think improvements have been made, and the good thing is we can always continue to improve, but I don't see it being in a worse position than it was 10 or 15 years ago. And you know, we should all strive to make the biggest fights possible and all celebrate big fights happening, whether it's us or another promoter, because at the end of the day that's beneficial for the sport. You know, big fights happening, people talking about boxing, it's good for all of us.
In terms of your state in America, losing Canelo obviously now until at least for another 3 fights, a lot of people think that Canelo's coming towards the back end of his career. Obviously he started fighting for 15 or 16 as a professional. So how do you kind of recoup the business, the subscribers, and find those next stars? I know obviously you've got Diego Pacheco that you're really pushing, but obviously Canelo has that massive draw. So how do you kind of come back from that?
Yeah, the reality is there's not many people like Canelo. I mean, Canelo's the only one who's been doing it for a long time, delivering, you know, huge numbers. Other fighters in the right fights will deliver the types of numbers Canelo has been doing, but that's about having 2 people come together. You know, our focus now is about going out and making real strong fights. As I say, prograis Haney's a brilliant fight, an example of that. We're working hard to try and make Edgar Berlanga against Jaime Munguia, another brilliant fight. You talk about future talent. You know, you've also got Sonny Edwards against Jesse Rodriguez, brilliant fight. Whoever comes out of that is going to be an even bigger star in the sport. Diego Pacheco, as you say, he's 22 years old or 23 years old. He's worked with us since he was 17, 18 years old. He's on an unbelievable run. He could really be the future who takes over, you know, in the sport. Mark Castro, another young fighter who we've got a lot of, you know, we believe he's going to be very talented. So, yes, we need to go out and deliver big fights, and that's what we're working to do. You know, and those 2 or 3 I mentioned just there, they're big moments towards the end of this year that we're focused on delivering. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, great, we lost Canelo. Like, of course, everyone would want to work with Canelo. It's an obvious statement. Every promoter and broadcaster would want to work with Canelo. But at the same time, we now have to go away and look at how can we deliver other significant moments for our broadcasters and the fans and subscribers. And that's what we do, and we'll continue to do for years to come.
Just a final one. Obviously, WBC made some rulings. Haney, as you said, prograis. What do you think Haney will do? Obviously, Shakur's been mandated, or it's prograis for him next, and he doesn't have long to make that decision. You've obviously probably had those convos with him. What is the latest with that?
Yeah, we're working very hard, and hopefully we can get the prograis fight done. It's a brilliant fight. Haney gets a lot of stick in boxing, like undeserved stick. What he's done in the sport at such a young age, you know, is quite amazing. And now you're talking about, right, he goes to 140 and fights Regis Prograis for the 140 title. You know, like, fair play. Like, you can't say he's not taking that fight, or he's not taking a Lomachenko rematch, or he's not fighting Shakur. Like, just respect what he's done and what he'll continue to do. Hopefully we can make that fight. Like I say, we're working very hard. We believe it's a brilliant fight, and we're gonna try and get it over the line.
Okay, well, thank you, Frank the Tank Smith. I appreciate you allowing me to come and see you today and grabbing a few bits from you. Any final comments or anything like you'd like to add before we end?
No, but next time we do this, you can come around my house and I'm going to get a dog. And there was a story off camera about how scared he is of dogs, so we're going to do that next time. A gushing dog.
I don't mind travelling to Brighton, to be honest. I don't mind. But yeah, thank you, Frank. I look forward to coming to your house in due course, and we'll catch up with you very soon.
Cheers, mate. Good to see you.
Frank Smith for Boxing King Media. Thank you.